So welcome to all of the Matajis here. Who have joined us for the Women's Day special program. And today we're going to go into a most exalted devotee, the Lord's Mother. To get the opportunity to be the Lord's Mother is certainly an exalted position, an exquisite benediction from the Supreme Lord. So today we're going to go into two pastimes. One pastime where the Lord has been eating mud and he bewilders his mother when he shows the entire cosmos inside his mouth. So that will be from chapter 8 of Canto 10. And in the next chapter, the Lord performs his Damodar Leela pastime, where he's chased by his mother. Finally, he's captured by her, bound by her, etc. So, and we'll conclude this session by looking at 3 lessons that we can learn from the Damodar Leela and how we can actually apply it in our personal lives. So the word Yashoda means one who, the word Yash means fame. So one who brings fame or glory to others is called Yashoda. So because of her role as the mother of the Supreme Lord, she gives the Supreme Lord his glory and his fame simply by being his mother. So we'll talk about Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, who they were in their past lifetime, and how did they end up get the benediction of actually being the parents of the Supreme Lord. So one day there is a person that is come to visit Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. His name is Garga Muni. And Garga Muni was actually sent by Vasudev in Mathura because he realized the naming ceremony has to be done for both his sons, Lord Balaram and Lord Krishna. And since Garga Muni was the family priest of the Yadu Vamsha, Vasudev sent Garga Muni to go visit Nanda Maharaj. Of course, Nanda Maharaj receives him very well. And Nanda Maharaj himself asks Garga Muni to kindly perform the naming ceremony for the 2 beautiful sons. At that time, Garga Muni reminds Nanda Maharaj that Kamsa was still looking, searching for the son of Devaki, Krishna. And therefore, if Nanda Maharaj was to perform this ceremony in an open way or in a grand way, it would certainly attract the attention of Kamsa. And that would not be a good idea. So then Nanda Maharaj requests Garga Muni to perform the ceremony in secret without anybody's knowledge. And therefore, they perform the ceremony in the Goshala. And there, Garga Muni gives both the young boys their names. The son of Rohini is called Balaram. Rama means someone who gives pleasure to others. And Bala means he has extraordinary strength, and therefore he is called Baladeva. And Garga Muni also says one of his other names is Sankarshana. Why? Because he brings 2 families together. And then Garga Muni names the son of Yashoda, Krishna. And Gargamuni says in previous lifetimes he has come in different colors such as white, red, and yellow. And this time he has assumed the color black because sometimes he was the son of Vasudev. He's known as Vasudev. And Gargamuni tells the two parents that because this young boy will perform such wonderful pastimes, he will have many, many names. And indeed, by being here in Rajabhumi, the Lord will bring a great deal of bliss and satisfaction to the Brajavasis. And so Gargamuni instructs Nanda Maharaj, kindly protect this precious child, very carefully. And then he departs. So then Shukadev Goswami is speaking about the two young children. They're just little toddlers. They've just learned how to crawl. Pretty soon they were walking. They were playing with the cows and calves. Both of them were stealing butter. Both of them were breaking pots. In this way, Shukadev Goswami describes the naughty pastimes of both Krishna and Balaram. And he gives some very sweet descriptions about how Lord Krishna and Balaram would come up behind the calf, catch hold of its tail, and the calf would be so startled that it will drag both the boys across the courtyard, covering them in mud, urine, and cow dung. And Shukadev Goswami says, when the Lord was covered in the dust of Braja, he looked exquisitely beautiful. And then there is one specific pastime that we're going to go into, where the Lord is seems to have a proclivity to eat mud. He's done that many times, but this time the complaint has gone all the way to Mother Yashoda. So we're going to come to the Srimad Bhagavatam and read those specific verses of what actually happens. So chapter 8 is titled, Lord Krishna shows the universal form within his mouth. And this is the chapter where Gargamuni has come. He has named the two sons, the two beautiful lordships are performing various pastimes. And slowly the two boys have learned how to walk. They've stopped crawling. They have started playing with the other children. And when they start playing with the other children, they start giving transcendental bliss, not just to the children, but also to all the gopis, the cowherd women. So now Krishna was very restless and he was still very mischievous, and the gopis have come as a committee to complain to Mother Yashoda of all the mischievous activities of the Lord. So we'll start with Sloka number 28. Observing the very attractive childish restlessness of Krishna, all the gopis in the neighborhood, to hear about Krishna's activities again and again, would approach Mother Yashoda and speak to her as follows. So you see, even though the gopis supposedly came to complain about the Supreme Lord, just by speaking about the Lord's pastimes, they were experiencing bliss. So anytime Krishna did something naughty in their house, they would run over to Yashoda to tell her this because they wanted to experience the bliss of narrating the naughty ways of Kanaya. Of course, they would also pretend to be angry. So that's what they do. Our dear friend Yashoda, your son sometimes comes to our houses before the milking of the cows and releases the calves. And when the master of the house becomes angry, your son merely smiles. So one of the gopis is complaining, in the morning hours, when the cows are separated from their calves so that the milking can happen, Krishna would come quietly and just untie all the calves. So obviously, the calves would all run to their mothers to drink their mother's milk. But this would upset the owner of the cow, and he would become very angry. And when he exhibited his anger towards the Lord, our little Lala would just smile. Sometimes he devises some process by which he steals palatable curd, butter, and milk, which he then eats and drinks. So the Lord was also caught stealing. What was he stealing? Curds, butter, milk, and he would just sit and enjoy himself as a thief. He didn't steal it and run away and eat it in hiding. He stole it and stayed in the house, ate it, drank it, and then left. When the monkeys assemble, he divides it with them. And when the monkeys have their bellies so full that they won't take more, he breaks the pots. So Krishna would get upset. He wanted to feed the monkeys, but he wanted to feed them endlessly. And the monkeys would say, no, enough. We can't have any more. Krishna would get so upset, he would break the pot. Sometimes, if he gets no opportunity to steal butter or milk from a house, he will be angry at the householders. And for his revenge, he will agitate the small children by pinching them. So sometimes the Lord will step into a house and unfortunately he'll not find anything that he wants that he can steal. He'll become so upset with the householders. How did the Lord extract his revenge? He will go to the little small children laying in the crib and he'll just pinch their cheeks. Then when the children begin crying, Krishna will run away. And the mischief is not stopped. So sometimes the gopis knew Krishna will come to plunder the milk and curd. So they would hang it up really high. When the milk and curd are kept high on a swing hanging from the ceiling, and Krishna and Balarama cannot reach it, they arrange to reach it by piling up various planks and turning upside down the mortar for grinding spices. So the two lordships, they were not going to allow height to defeat them. They would very nicely organize various wooden planks. Then they would turn the mortar for grinding spices upside down, climb on top of it, and still manage to access the contents of the pot. Being quite aware of the contents of the pot, they poke holes in it. While the elderly gopis go about their household affairs, Krishna and Balaram sometimes go into a dark room, brightening the place with the valuable jewels and ornaments on their bodies, and taking advantage of this light by stealing. So if the householder had kept things in the dark, since they know Krishna and Balaram will come, they would keep the room very dark where all the precious items for Krishna were hidden. But then the jewelry that Mother Yashoda and Rohini put around the lordship's necks was so bright that was sufficient light for the lordships to continue their stealing activities. When Krishna is caught in his naughty activities, the master of the house will say to him, "Oh, you are a thief," and artificially express anger at Krishna. Krishna will then reply, "I'm not a thief. You are a thief." So sometimes young children have a tendency to talk back, and it may happen unexpectedly and surprise and catch the adult or the parent unawares. Krishna was saying, "I'm not a thief. You are a thief." Actually, there is such a deep philosophical meaning behind this statement. When the Lord says, "I'm not a thief, you are a thief," He's saying, "I have come for the butter and the milk and the curds. I myself am supplying it to you, and you are accusing me of stealing. How can I be the thief? I own everything." And then he tells the master, "Actually, you are the thief. because you are stealing from me without even offering it. So I have forcibly come and taken what belongs to me. So that's what Krishna means when he says, I'm not a thief, you are a thief. Sometimes being angry, Krishna passes urine and stool in a neat, clean place in our houses. Well, that neat, clean place would be the puja room. Sometimes, if the Lord was not satisfied with the quality of the butter or the quality of the yogurt, he would leave his prasadam behind in the form of urine and stool in the puja. But now, our dear friend Yashoda, this expert thief is sitting before you like a very good boy. So when the gopis had come to complain, Krishna was there, looking very innocent, and at the same time looking very fearful. He wasn't sure what his mother is going to say, hearing all of this. What was Mother Yashoda going to do to him? Did she believe him or not? Did she believe the gopis or not? Sometimes all the gopis would look at Krishna sitting there, his eyes fearful, so that his mother would not chastise him. And when they saw Krishna's beautiful face, instead of chastising him, they would simply look upon his face and enjoy transcendental bliss. Mother Yashoda would mildly smile at all this fun, and she would not want to chastise her blessed transcendental child. So even though the gopis were anxious to see how Mother Yashoda would react, they were just happily taking darshan of the Lord. And the more they were seeing the Lord, the more they were experiencing bliss. They didn't want to leave the place. They are done with their complaints. Mother Yashoda didn't look like she was going to take any action, but they were hanging around. So one day, while Krishna was playing with his small playmates, including Balarama and other sons of the Gopas, all his friends came together and lodged a complaint to Mother Yashoda. Mother, they submitted, Krishna has eaten earth. Apparently, Krishna has done this many times before, and every time Krishna would eat the mud of the Brajabhumi, he would try to do it in secret. He didn't want anybody seeing him doing that. Upon hearing this from Krishna's playmates, Mother Yashoda, who was always full of anxiety over Krishna's welfare, picked Krishna up with her hands to look into his mouth and chastise him. Her eyes fearful, she spoke to her son as follows. See, a mother is always anxious about protecting their child. Sometimes the mother has overwhelming love for the child, and sometimes the mother gets exasperated with a young child. So the mother experiences both emotions, extreme love and affection, and extreme dissatisfaction with some of the activities of their children. And keep in mind, already Krishna has killed Putana, he's killed Chakatashura, he's killed Trinavarta, all before the age of 2. So naturally, she was anxious for her son's welfare. Her eyes fearful, she spoke to her son as follows. Dear Krishna, why are you so restless that you have eaten dirt in a solitary place? This complaint has been lodged against you by all your playmates, including your elder brother Balarama. How is this? So for good measure, Mother Yashoda includes Dauji's name. Now, Krishna cannot accuse Dauji of lying. So what does Krishna do? He tells, my dear mother, I have never eaten dirt. All my friends complaining against me are liars. He left out his brother, only his friends. All my friends complaining against me are liars. However, if you think they are being honest, if you think they are being truthful, you can directly look into my mouth and examine it. So he was challenging Mother Yashoda. He was trying to bluff her by saying, I have never eaten dirt. But in case you don't believe me, why don't you check my mouth? You can check for yourself. So Mother Yashoda challenged Krishna. If you've not eaten earth, then open your mouth wide. When challenged by his mother in this way, Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, to exhibit pastimes like a human child, opened his mouth. One of the acharyas say, Krishna was trying to bluff Mother Yashoda, thinking, sometimes when the child vehemently denies that they've done anything wrong, the mother may just let go. They may not push the issue. But that was not the case here with Mother Yashoda. She was fully ready to check. She was on a fact-finding mission. So some acharyas say the Lord didn't know what to expect, so he closed his eyes and opened his mouth. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, who is full of all opulences, did not disturb his mother's parental affection, his opulence was automatically displayed. For Krishna's opulence is never lost at any stage, but is manifest at the proper time. What is so special about the Lord's pastimes in Vrindavan, Vrajabhumi, is that nobody knows he's the Lord. Even though Garga Muni has come and told Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda, your son is a great personality. He's appeared in many other yugas. He's known by his different names and pastimes, etc. Although they heard it, they forgot it because of the Lord's Yogamaya potency. So sometimes the Lord, in spite of his best efforts to hide the fact that he's the Supreme Lord, sometimes his Shakti potency intervene. If you hear some of the classes on this particular pastime and the Damodar Leela pastime, it is just so beautiful. All the explanations given. The Lord has around 16 Shakti potencies, and each one of them's job was to protect the Lord and make sure the Lord's fame and name do not get degraded. So because Mother Yashoda was about to catch her son in a lie, the Shakti potencies of the Lord intervened. Therefore, when the Lord opened his mouth, what does Mother Yashoda see? She saw within his mouth all moving and non-moving entities, outer space and all directions, along with mountains, islands, oceans, the surface of the earth, the blowing wind, fire, the moon, and the stars. She saw the planetary systems, water, light, air, sky, and creation by transformation of ahankara. She also saw the senses, the mind, sense perception, and the three qualities, goodness, passion, and ignorance. She saw the time allotted for the living entities. She saw natural instinct and the reactions of karma. And she saw desires and different varieties of bodies, moving and non-moving. Seeing all these aspects of the cosmic manifestation, along with herself and Vrindavan Dham, she became doubtful and fearful of her son's nature. So the mother has seen the entire universe inside the Lord's tiny little mouth. Not only that, she saw herself sitting in Vrindavan Dham inside the Lord's mouth. So obviously she is going to become perturbed. And she began to wonder what on earth is going on. Is this a dream? Or is it an illusory creation by external energy, Mahamaya? Has Mahamaya tricked me? Has this been manifested by my own intelligence? Or is it some mystic power of my child? She couldn't figure out what was going on. Is it possible that her child was a very powerful being? Or am I just imagining things? Or has Maya Devi created some scenery that I'm seeing? And immediately she thinks, Therefore, let me surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and offer my obeisances unto Him, who is beyond the conception of human speculation, the mind, activities, words, and arguments, who is the original cause of this cosmic manifestation, by whom the entire cosmos is maintained, and by whom we can conceive of its existence. Let me simply offer my obeisances, for He is beyond my contemplation, speculation, and meditation. He is beyond all of my material activities. So Mother Yashoda was thinking, this is somebody special. I don't know, I've been thinking he's my child. Maybe he's the Supreme Lord Himself. And then she's speaking a little philosophy further. It is by the influence of the Supreme Lord's Maya that I'm wrongly thinking that Nanda Maharaj is my husband, that Krishna is my son, and that because I am the queen of Nanda Maharaj, all the wealth of cows and calves are my possessions, and all the cowherd men and their wives are my subjects. Actually, I also am eternally subordinate to the Supreme Lord. He is my ultimate shelter. So she's saying, unfortunately, I have accepted myself as this body. But I know ultimately I am eternally a spirit soul, and my role is I am subservient to the Supreme Lord. But still, I have begun to think I am the master. Wrong identity. Wrong identity when you think you're the body. But of course, Mother Yashoda is in a completely different category. So, how did Mother Yashoda know all of this? Shukadev Goswami explains in the next shloka. Mother Yashoda, by the grace of the Lord, could understand the real truth. But then again, the Supreme Master, by the influence of the internal potency Yoga Maya, inspired her to become absorbed in intense maternal affection for her son. When the Lord realized that the Shakti potencies had intervened and they had revealed that He was the Supreme Lord to Mother Yashoda, then through His Yoga Maya potency, first Mother Yashoda talks about Mahamaya. Now the Lord, through His Yoga Maya potency, makes Mother forget everything that she's just seen in His mouth. Completely, in a split second, Mother Yashoda forgot that her son had mud, forgot that she asked him to open his mouth, forgot that she saw the cosmos inside. Because the Lord, with His Yogamaya potency, made her forget it. As a matter of fact, her love and affection for Krishna increases. Immediately forgetting Yogamaya's illusion that Krishna had shown the universal form within his mouth, Mother Yashoda took her son on her lap as before, feeling increased affection in her heart for a transcendental child. Having forgotten everything that she had just seen, her love for her Lala simply grows unlimitedly. The glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are studied through the three Vedas, the Upanishads, the literature of Sankhya Yoga, and other Vaishnava literature. Yet, Mother Yashoda considered the Supreme Person her ordinary child. See, if Mother Yashoda were allowed to remember that she had seen this inside the Lord's mouth, then the next day or that very same second, minute, hour, she would no longer have seen him as her son, and she would have started worshipping him. The Lord did not want that. He was enjoying His mother's love and affection for him. Although He was her master, in reality, He was acting like her young baby. And Mother Yashoda never ever thought or treated Krishna like he was the Supreme Lord. So now Parikshit Maharaj is curious. Having heard of the great fortune of Mother Yashoda, Parikshit Maharaj inquired from Shukadev Goswami, O learned Brahmana, Mother Yashoda's breast milk was sucked by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What past auspicious activities did she and Nanda Maharaj perform to achieve such perfection in ecstatic love? So Parikshit Maharaj is bewildered. How can someone who's the master of the spiritual world, the master of the material world, come as a small baby and that too drink milk from his mother's breast? That means that Jivatma must have done something extraordinary to get this kind of loving intimacy with the Lord in Vatsalya Ras, a parent's deep love for a child, a mother's deep love for her child. Shukadev Goswami says, although Krishna was so pleased with Vasudeva and Devaki that he descended as their son, they could not enjoy Krishna's magnanimous childhood pastimes, which are so great that simply chanting about them vanquishes the contamination of the material. Simply chanting the shlokas that are talking about the childhood pastimes, simply hearing about the pastimes, childhood pastimes, all the contamination in our hearts are removed. Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, however, enjoyed these pastimes fully, and therefore their position is always better than that of Vasudeva and Devaki. Although Vasudeva and Devaki were the actual parents of Krishna, they never had the fortune of seeing his childhood pastimes. That benediction belonged to Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. And therefore, in comparison to Devaki and Vasudeva, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda are considered to be higher caliber of pure devotees. Shukadev Goswami said, to follow the orders of Lord Brahma, Drona, the best of the Vasus, along with his wife Thara, spoke to Lord Brahma in this way. That means Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj in their previous lives were Thara and Drona. They got a benediction from the Supreme Lord Vishnu. When the Lord offers them something, they say to the Lord, my dear Lord, we want you as our child. And the Lord said, well, what can I do? If that's what you ask, that's what I have to give. Because you're my pure devotees. How can I deny my pure devotees? So Drona and Dhara said to Brahma, please permit us to be born on the planet Earth so that after our appearance, the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller and Master of all planets, will also appear and spread devotional service, the ultimate goal of life, so that those born in this material world may very easily be delivered from the miserable condition of materialistic life by accepting this devotional service. So Dhara and Drona knew in their next life the Lord was going to come to them as a young child, and he is going to perform his pastimes, especially his pastimes in Brajabhumi are pastimes between Bhagavan and the Bhakta. Therefore, the Lord was propagating Bhakti Yoga in Dwapara Yoga. That if you also practice Bhakti Yoga, you will also leave behind this miserable condition of materialistic life simply by serving the Lord with love. When Brahma said, yes, let it be so, the most fortunate Drona, who was equal to Bhagavan, appeared in Brajapura, Vrindavana, as the most famous Nanda Maharaj, and his wife Dhara appeared as Mother Yashoda. Thereafter, O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the Bharatas, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead became the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, they maintained continuous, unswerving, devotional love in parental affection. All the parents did was shower their love and affection on baby Krishna. And they did it with such love and dedication. And in their association, all the other inhabitants of Vrindavana, the Gopas and Gopis, developed the culture of Krishna Bhakti. That means everybody in Rajabhumi was deeply in love with Krishna. For them, Krishna was their very life and soul. As we discovered in the Kali Leela yesterday, how they responded when they saw Krishna trapped in the coils of Kali. They fainted, they lost consciousness, they were crying. They didn't know what to do. They felt helpless. So all the Lord did was attract the attention of the Vrajavasis to him, such that they were always engaged in his service in some way or the other. Thus, the Supreme Personality Krishna, along with Balarama, lived in Vrajabhumi, Vrindavana, just to substantiate the benediction of Brahma. By exhibiting different pastimes in his childhood, he increased the transcendental pleasure of Nanda and the other inhabitants of Vrindavana. So all the childhood pastimes of the Lord, all the pastimes, including the killing of his demons, including his naughty ways, his mischievous ways, every one of them would bring such bliss to the Vrajavasis. But as any mother would normally be anxious that if her son becomes wayward, she has to correct him. After all, Mother Yashoda thought, he is going to be the next king. He cannot be doing all of this robbery, daylight robbery, nighttime robbery. What will people think? And if this is his character now, who's going to marry him when he grows up? So these were all the anxieties that Mother Yashoda was experiencing, just like any other mother would experience about her child. A mother will always think, oh, he's so sweet now. I worry for him. I hope the world will be okay. I hope the world will treat him okay. I hope he will find the right wife in the future. He will be happy. He'll be prosperous. Like this, Mother Yashoda was anxious about Krishna. Now that the mother had heard all about the thieving ways of Krishna, this Damodar Leela takes place. So it was Diwali. The Lord was not yet 3 years old. And Mother Yashoda thought to herself, I'm not sure why my son is going to steal. In other people's homes, I have the best butter. I have the Padmagandha cows who give the best milk, fragrant milk. I make such nice sweet dish items for my Lala, such exquisite curds and butter. She wasn't sure. Why is it that Krishna was going to other homes? And she thought to herself, I have a lot of help in the kitchen. Usually my maidservants do all of this. But it's Diwali. Let me personally make for my Lala butter, yogurt, lot of sweets made with milk. And she decides she will get up early. Krishna is sleeping by her side. She slowly, without waking him up, gets up, takes a bath, heads to the kitchen, puts a pot of milk on top of the stove, comes into the adjoining room, and she begins to churn the buttermilk, the yogurt. And what was she doing as she was churning? She was singing the pastimes of her dear boy. all his naughty activities, the way he looks, with innocent eyes, sometimes with fear in his eyes, afraid that his mother is going to beat him. And like this particular shloka says, dressed in saffron yellow sari, with the belt tied about her full hips, Mother Yashoda pulled on the churning rope, laboring considerably. Laboring means she was working hard. Her bangles and earrings moving and vibrating, and her whole body shaking. Because of her intense love for her child, her breasts were wet with milk. Her face, with its very beautiful eyebrows, was wet with perspiration, and malati flowers were falling from her. She was working hard to please her son. And she was experiencing bliss. What happens? Krishna suddenly realizes, where is Maya? How come she's left the bed? Doesn't she know when I wake up I need my milk? She needs to be by my side. When I'm hungry, she has to feed me. So, feeling hungry, the Lord slowly, because the bed was at such a height, he couldn't just jump off of it. He slides down the side of the bed and toddles over to his mother. And what is the first thing that he does? Since Mother Yashoda was churning, he simply puts his chubby little hand on the churning rod so that she could not churn anymore. And the mother was so pleased. She was thinking, my Lala is so intelligent. He knows if he catches hold of this churning rod, I will not be able to do my work. So successfully, he stopped me from doing work. So she embraces the Lord and puts him down on her lap to feed him. And she's enjoying looking at the Lord's face as he was feeding. And the Lord was enjoying himself looking at his mother's face as he was feeding. But then the milk in the kitchen hit the fire with a hissing sound. And Mother Yashoda immediately, without thinking twice, this is very expensive Padmagandha cow milk, very fragrant milk. She puts the Lord down and runs into the kitchen. And the Lord was certainly not happy about this. I am hungry. A mother's most important duty is to make sure that the child's hunger is satisfied first. How can she abandon me? My stomach is not full. I'm still hungry. And the Lord gets very upset. So he throws a temper tantrum. So he picks up a stone and cracks open the pot, thinking, at least let me get some butter while my mother is away in the kitchen. So all the buttermilk and yogurt spills out, and Krishna is desperately looking for the butter. But mother has just started churning. There will hardly be any butter. So whatever little he could find, he put that in his mouth. And then he thought, let me go find the real stuff. I know exactly where it is. And with his chubby little legs, leaving buttermilk footprints all over the place, he goes to the storeroom where the mother had hung the butter and yogurt high up. And Krishna thought, oh, I have to work hard for this. So he puts the grinding mortar upside down, climbs onto it, takes the butter. Monkeys are hanging outside the window. He feeds them butter. But the Lord also knows that Mother Yashoda is not going to be too happy with him. So just give me 1 second. My battery is low. So he's constantly looking over his shoulder in fear, wondering when his mother is going to arrive, because he needs to be ready to escape. So Mother Yashoda, meantime, comes out of the kitchen And she says, "Oh my God, who's made this mess?" So, looking at the mess, she realizes this has to be my son. Ah, all the things that the gopis said were true. So that's what the Lord was doing. So she picks up a stick and very softly, quietly, she comes up behind Krishna. The monkeys look alarmed, so Krishna knows mother is behind me. And the minute he sees her with the stick in her hand, looking extremely angry, he quickly got down from the mortar and began to run. And Shukadev Goswami says, yogis try to capture him as Paramatma by meditation, but they fail to reach him. So through meditation, you capture the Lord, but you're not successful. Here, Mother Yashoda was chasing her son to catch him, not realizing he is the Supreme Personality. So Mother Yashoda is an elderly lady because she and Nanda Maharaj had Krishna when they were much older. Of course, they were surrogate parents. So she had a hard time chasing Krishna. She was a little older. She was a little heavy-set woman. She was not as quick as Krishna. And Krishna will just dodge her and turn this way and turn that way. And pretty soon, the mother's hair has come loose. The flowers that she had decorating her hair fell on the floor. The harder she tried, she just couldn't catch Krishna. So Krishna every time would turn around to see, and he would think to himself, my mother is so heavy. Poor thing, let me slow down. There's no way she'll catch me. But at the same time, he was afraid. So every time he saw his mother chasing him, he would look around and see the stick in her hand. He would start crying, saying, put your stick down, you're scaring me. But Mother Yashoda was not about to listen anytime soon. Then the Lord, seeing that his mother was getting very tired, she looked very exhausted, he thought, let me not trouble my mother so much. Let me just allow her to catch me. So the Supreme Lord, who has no beginning, no end, no interior, no exterior, no front, no rear, he's all pervading. He is indeed time. He was caught by his mother. And Mother Yashoda thought, Krishna looks so afraid. Let me drop the stick. And she's worried. He's so obstinate. He's so restless. He may just run away from home. I need to make sure, even though I've chastised him by carrying the stick in my hand, I'm afraid that he's going to run away into the forest and never return home. So she thinks, best thing to do is bind him up. He's so restless. And she catches hold. Krishna goes inside the house, tries to find some binding ropes, and she tries to wrap Krishna to the grinding mortar, and the length of the rope would always be short by 2 finger widths. She would say, stand here. I'm going to go to get some more rope. And when she would get more rope and tie it, again, the rope would be 2 finger widths short. How could it be? No matter how many ropes she would get, and she was exhausted trying to tie her little son, but he would never allow her to tie him. Same thing. All the Shakti potency of the Lord was saying, who are you to bind our dear Lord? We can't allow a Jivatma to bind our master. So the Yogamaya potency was preventing Mother Yashoda from binding Krishna. What is the significance of the 2 finger lengths short every time? One is our endeavor. 2 is the Lord's reciprocation and mercy. So the Lord expects us to endeavor to capture him in our hearts. But at the same time, we need the Lord's mercy to capture him. When the Lord realized this was going on for too long, he said, Chalo, you bind me. So the minute the Lord reciprocated with Mother Yashoda's attempts to bind him, the Lord of the universe was bound. And Acharyas say, it is actually not the rope that is binding Krishna. It is actually Mother Yashoda's love that has bound Krishna. So by now all the friends and elderly gopis have gathered. They're giggling, laughing at all this fun. Krishna, Mother Yashoda is embarrassed. So she's smiling. So she was completely drenched in sweat. But the Lord, being very merciful to her, agreed to be bound. So everybody is trying to catch the Lord. Here his mother has caught him successfully. So in this particular pastime, what happens is it clearly indicates we have to take an initiative in learning to serve the Lord, learning to love him, learning to offer our love and affection towards him, our devotion towards him. Only then the Lord will reciprocate. The more intense our love, the more will be the reciprocation from the Supreme Lord. So it's astounding to the Devatas, to Lakshmi Devi, to Lord Shiva, to Lord Brahma. The Lord was tied up by Mother Yashoda. So having tied him up, Mother Yashoda goes back into the kitchen. At that time, the Lord motions to the other boys, look at what my cruel mother has done to me. She's tied me up. Please untie me. The boys would try. They could never untie the knot. Then Balaram comes back. And Krishna starts complaining to Balaram. Look at what your mother did to me. She's so unfair. She's so unkind. Is this any way to treat me, to bind me like this? And Lord Balaram goes into rage. How dare anybody tie his master up? So he goes to challenge Mother Yashoda. And he tells her, do you know who he is? And she says, yes, that's my child. No, you don't know he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's the Lord of Vaikuntha. He's the Lord of Golok Vrindavan. And she said, oh, is that right? And who are you? And he says, you don't know who I am? I am Sankarshan. I am Balaram. I am eternally his servant. Mother Yashoda was not impressed at all. She said, okay, so all the avatars have just come to my house, is it? And Mother Yashoda picks up the stick. The minute Balaram sees the stick in Mother Yashoda's hands, he just runs. And he comes and tells Krishna, sorry, I can't help you. She's too angry. So there are 3 lessons that we can learn from this particular pastime. One is our personal endeavor is necessary to let the Lord know that we have taken his shelter, that we want to please him. So in this particular instance, usually the maid servants would make all of the items in the kitchen. Because after all, Mother Yashoda was the queen of that village. She didn't have to do anything personally. But on this particular day, she decided, I have to serve myself personally. So she personally milks the cows, she makes it into yogurt, then she churns it into butter. So this was Mother Yashoda's personal service to the Supreme. So in this particular instance, she does not delegate the service. She was personally endeavoring to satisfy her child. Our tendency is when we get an opportunity for seva, we're always coming up with an excuse. The opportunity to serve the Lord, to serve the devotees of the Lord, comes very rare. The Lord does not give this kind of benediction to everybody. So it would be our great misfortune if we say no to services in the temple. So we have to personally make an effort to serve the Lord. Furthermore, if we don't learn how to serve the Lord, how are we going to preach to the others to serve the Lord? So we ourselves have to take up service before we can tell others to take up service. Service to the Lord is purifying. The second lesson we can learn is we should never forget Krishna. When Mother Yashoda was churning, what was she remembering? What was she singing? She was remembering Krishna. She was singing about Krishna. Of course, she was composing songs in her own way about all of the Lord's pastimes. But through the process of remembering all of the Lord's activities in the form of a song, she was experiencing bliss. So Mother Yashoda was Krishna conscious. And for us to stay in Krishna consciousness, this is the process we also have to follow. We should make an endeavor to serve the Lord, and we should always be thinking about Him. And the third lesson that we can learn is, just like Mother Yashoda perspired, she ran and ran and ran and ran after the Lord. Acharyas say this was not mere 30 minutes, 40 minutes. This pastime went on for the whole day until she successfully binds him somewhere in the evening. So this was not a short pastime. The Lord was running away from his mother for so long. On top of that, how much Mother Yashoda labored so hard, even though every time the rope would fall 2 finger lengths short or 2 finger width short, she never gave up. She was sweating, she was tired, but she doesn't give up. So these are the 3 lessons that we can learn from Mother Yashoda. One is we have to endeavor on our own to serve. 2, we have to always remember the Lord and his pastimes. And 3, we should never give up in our attempts to bind the Lord with our love. So it was not the ropes that bound the Lord. All the devotees are looking to surrender to the Lord, but the Lord completely surrenders to his pure devotees because he doesn't know what to do when they exhibit and express such pure love for him. He feels helpless, and therefore he becomes bound by a devotee's pure love for him. And since we talked about Mahamaya and Yoga Maya, it is quite appropriate that today's chapter is exactly on this topic, quite by mystical coincidence. I did not organize it that way, but it just so happened. The pastime we spoke about is going to be described here. The metaphysics of it is going to be described. So today's topic is Prakriti and Kala. Prakriti means Mother Nature. Prakriti means Shakti potency. But before we begin, let's offer our most humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakaya. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nitya, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasa Gauravakta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. We said in the first class that the ontological position of the soul in the spiritual world is that all souls are female. It's only the Lord that is Purusha. Purusha means enjoyer. Prakriti means one who has to serve, the one that is meant to enjoy you. The Lord has created us for His enjoyment. Therefore, if we don't do our bit to please the Lord, then we get separated from Him. So we talked about Shaktiman and Shakti. The two are inseparable. Shaktiman is Lord Krishna and Shakti is Srimati Radharani. Therefore, all of the Shakti potencies originate from Srimati Radharani. She is the energy potency of the Lord. She is the pleasure potency of the Lord. Therefore, when we discuss the gopis' pastimes tomorrow, even though they were married, they were in love with Krishna. They were madly in love with Krishna. Their minds, hearts, intelligence, emotions was always thinking about Krishna, which is what Krishna wants. Prabhupada used to say, when a wife is having an affair, she will serve her husband even more sweetly so that he does not become suspicious that she has a lover. So Prabhupada would say, we should also serve our families very nicely and still at the same time love Krishna with all our hearts and consciousness. So loving Krishna benefits you and benefits your family. So we're going to talk about 3 different types of energies of the Lord today, which the Lord Himself speaks about in the Bhagavad Gita. We heard in this past time when Mother Yashoda said, maybe I've come under the influence of Maya, that's why I'm seeing all these things, under illusion. And then the Lord, through His Yogamaya potency, makes the mother forget that she had seen the entire cosmos in His tiny little mouth. So this Mahamaya and Yogamaya, we will understand what their roles are. What's their duty and responsibility towards the Lord? And how do they interact with us? And then we have one more energy of the Lord, which is you and me, the Jivatmas. So ultimately we have a choice. We'll find out what the choice is. Krishna says we are constantly under the control and influence of the 3 gunas, Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. But Krishna will also give us a solution. So even if you are under the influence of Sattvagun, you have to take birth repeatedly. So that means there must be something beyond the 3 gunas. And Krishna is going to tell us how we can transcend these 3 gunas. And then we'll conclude our slide today with discussing time. So the Lord has many, many energies. 3 of them he mentions specifically in the Bhagavad Gita. One is called the Bahiranga Shakti. That energy which has separated from the Lord but is serving the Lord in the material world. This is Mahamaya or Durga Devi or Parvati Devi. She is also the servant of the Lord, and we'll discover what the Lord says about Maya Devi. There is one more energy of the Lord that is the internal potency of that is called Antaranga Shakti, which is his spiritual energy. So the Lord has material energy and spiritual energy. The material energy is always separated from the Lord. The spiritual energy is always present with the Lord wherever he goes. And then there is one more Shakti called the Tathastha Shakti or the marginal energy, which is the Jivatmas. So what is the role of Mahamaya? She is in charge of creating everything in the material. She works under the supervision of the Lord. The Lord tells us that this cosmos he has created, this material world he has created, is temporary and full of miseries. He has deliberately created it in such a way so that we are punished, and at the same time, due to his mercy, we have an opportunity to reform ourselves. So as long as we are trying to become comfortable in this material world, unknowing to us, we are actually like fish out of water. Prabhupada would say, you can take a fish out of water, give it a nice gold throne, put it on the throne, but the fish is not comfortable being out of the water. Therefore, the Jivatma is always going to suffer until the Jivatma goes to its original position in the spiritual world. So here, the Lord is saying, Maya Dhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam Hetunanena Kaunteya Jagat Viparivartate. Krishna is saying, this material nature, Prakriti, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So the Lord is talking about the role of Durga Devi, how she is following his instructions, how this whole process is cyclical: creation, maintenance, destruction. Creation, maintenance, destruction. And Krishna is saying this happens again and again and again. So in this particular shloka, he's also included the concept of time, because time is cyclical for us. We experience time in cycles. So this is Mayadevi. And the Lord says the nature of this world is Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayamashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gataha. Krishna is saying, after attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. Krishna is combining two concepts here. One, the material world is temporary and full of miseries. Two, if you endeavor to love Krishna and bind him with your love, you will enter the spiritual world. But once you enter there, you will never come back to this jails. But what kind of prison that the Lord has designed? a prison without walls and without locks. You can leave anytime you want. You have the free will to fall in love with Krishna. Even though this prison has no walls and no locks, we stay here because we are conditioned. Krishna says in this particular shloka, Bhumirapunalo vayuhu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme bhinna prakritirashtadha. What is this universe composed of? This temporary universe. There is no walls, there is no locks. It's just made up of earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and ego. From the gross to the most subtle. Earth is the gross, less gross is water. Less than that is fire, less than that is air, ether, then mind, then intelligence, then ego. So the Lord is moving from gross to subtle. He's saying this gross and subtle elements come together and they constitute my separated material energies. So the word Durga means fortress. So Durga Devi is the superintendent of this prison house. But how are we bound here? And how do we escape, more importantly? Sattvam rajas tama iti gunah prakritir sambhavaah nibhadnanti mahabhavo dehe dehinam avyayam. The Lord is saying, my dear Arjuna, this material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, ignorance. Sattvam, rajas, tamaha. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty Aunt Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So the minute the Jivatma enters the material universe, immediately they are interacting with these three gunas. They come under the influence of these three gunas. And these three gunas are the three bars of your prison cell. But then Krishna also has to give us a solution. What's that solution? Daivihesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mameva ye prapadyante mayam etam tarantite. Krishna is saying this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. Krishna is saying, on your own, you cannot overcome the influence of the three modes. That means we have to do something. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. So if you want to escape this prison house that has no bars, no locks, no walls, how do you do that? Krishna is saying you have to surrender to him. Because the minute you surrender to him, the Lord will reciprocate. So we are called Tathastha Shakti, or marginal energy of the Lord, because he has given us the free will to choose. We can choose to be puppets in the hands of Durga Devi, or we can take shelter of the Lord and be under the protection of Yogamaya, the Lord's Antaranga Shakti. So like the cat on the wall has to decide which side it wants to be on, the Jivatma also has to utilize his or her free will to decide whether they want to be a puppet and suffer forever, or they want to be the puppet of the Lord and be rescued. So now, who is this Antaranga Shakti? Krishna has talked about the spiritual world. It's the exact opposite of the material. There is no anxiety, no lamentation, no fear in the spiritual. It is eternal, it is full of bliss. And unlike this world, where everybody is fighting with each other to be the master, because none of us want to be a servant. We all want to become powerful masters so that somebody else serves us. Whereas in the spiritual world, everyone there wants to serve and please God because they know their eternal position is that of a servant. So remember, we talked about the mistaken identity. The mistaken identity happens when we think we are the master. When we recognize that we are the servant, then we can prepare ourselves to go back to the Supreme. Krishna says, time I am, and I have come here to kill everybody on this battlefield. So Krishna is saying this whole cycle of days going into weeks, into months, into years, into yugas, into kalpas, all the way up to destruction. I am that time factor. And those who don't obey me will experience this time factor as death. They will fear death. So why does this creation keep taking place over and over again? What's the point? Doesn't it seem like an absolute waste of time and energy? Actually, no. This is actually done by the Lord to accommodate our changing desires. The more and more variety of material desires we have, the more we have to come back to this material. But then the Lord also is giving us a chance to reform. He's given us free will. He's also showing through this material cosmos the absolute absurdity of chasing things that are not permanent. He also wants us to experience the karma cycle so that we will begin to question why we are suffering. And hence you can begin your spiritual journey. Ultimately, the Lord, through the Bhagavad Gita, is preparing the jivatmas to come back to Him through the process of bhakti yoga. We showed this slide to you in the first session, where the Bhagavad Gita has all of the solutions that we're looking for in our life. In this particular slide, we have included the shloka numbers where you can actually seek the solutions for all the material problems in life. So with this, we conclude the Secrets of the Gita Reveal program today. Thank you very much for joining us every day, consistently giving me so much time to speak about spiritual topics. It's been most enjoyable for me.